Continue, Kon. Vijay sir, say. Kon will. Alex.
Yes, sir. I rise to speak on the budget, Speaker sir. In fact, after COVID and after so many issues of mining and all that, finally, budget after many years, the first thing good about the budget was the first time expenses on salaries. The revenue receipts, the expenditure on the amount of revenue receipts was coming to around 55%. Speaker sir, every time there was issues like how much money you really spend from the revenues for salaries of the government servants and non-recurring expenditure. Always the issue was when the previous Chief Minister Manohar Parrikar was there that he was trying to have it at 50%. And it looks like we have reached a target where it is 55%. Speaker sir, when we talk of the budget, we talk of the financial year 23-24. Almost 24,500 crores were projected to be the expenditure. The revenue receipts were in fact estimated at 20,000 crores, 11% more than the revised budget. Speaker sir, it was a revenue surplus budget and the fiscal deficit was at around 4.7% of the GSTP. Speaker sir, the highlights were everybody was expected to get digital payments. Most of the payments are almost digital now. Even all payments like contractors, everything have become digital, and I think that is a big step in fact of the government which will foster a better system in the prevailing what was there for so many years. Speaker sir, Goa's economy was projected at 4.1% was expected to grow GSTP, but then issues like CST, GST or other VAT, in fact all these issues in fact summed up when the central component was central government component including the GST component for the state will now shortly be issues that it will shortly be that we will have no remittance from the center, or rather after many years of what we were supposed to get, I think which will be the toughest job as far as how the state revenue should be obtained. Now state revenues, to see that where we can attain state revenues, the property taxes and so many things were projected. Although all these taxes will finally sum up to pressure on the common man. Speaker sir, expenditures, the revenue expenditures were almost 10% increase. There was a 10% increase than what was in the last year. Speaker sir, there were committed expenditure. When the committed expenditure means like salaries, pensions, interest payments. For the last year, I think we were at almost 9,300 crores, which was a very good budget for last year. Speaker sir, in fact, when we go to the budget speaking, the highest what was projected was for roads. That was a 25% increase. For education, it was almost 16%, and health, it was almost 17%. Speaker sir, although agriculture, it was a reduced budget for almost minus 10%. Speaker sir, the analysis showed that our state own tax, in fact, we had a good surplus tax revenue from the state. As far as GST is concerned, whatever share we were supposed to get, in fact, from the center, it was a little less. But then, in spite of all that, last year's budget to this year's budget, we have a very good proposition. Now, expenditures, what was proposed and was actually spent, there was differences. It was less than what was projected, or rather what was estimated to be spent. But all this is because of the shortfall. Now the government's toughest job will be to see how to attain those figures for this year. Whether the central government's taxes are mostly for infrastructure, for state profitability like infrastructure projects, and for where the central government is concentrating on where there will be projects which will give revenue to the state. Now, as far as industry is concerned also, in fact, the central government gives funds, but to spend where infrastructure can be made. In fact, the central government looks at spending for where the state can improve the financial position, not where state can use the money for their expenses. Now, FRBM limits, in fact, we have almost touched the FRBM limits, so we might not be able to take more loans for the next financial year, or rather increase number of loans for casual spendings. Because, sir, although with all these targets, if you look at state and state-wise expenditures for health and other states, I think we are almost 9.2%. Speaker, sir, spending for home and police, we are still better off. We have not reached what other states spend. Our state is a smaller state, so we spend almost 3.9%. Speaker, sir, education, if you see what other states spend and we spend, we are spending almost equal amount, say 14% of the total revenue receipts. Speaker, sir, talking of urban development, I always say urban development, and when we talk of seepage, when we talk of sewerage, or rather when we talk of garbage, I have always raised issues in an assembly which I have said that if we don't have proper systems, the major expenditure of the budgets will go to sewage, will go to sewerage, because that will require the most amount of money for maintenance of the existing systems, if the systems are not good or if they are not planned properly. Like in the assembly, they raised that bunch cables cannot be, it's a failure. We can't have sewage which will be a failure. We cannot afford to have that, because in the future years, the budget expenditure will more will be spent for this type of work. Speaker, sir, in fact, budget for urban development is almost, all the other states spend almost 3.5% of the budget, but here we are spending only 2.6%. Speaker, sir, talking of water supply, even water supply we are spending more than the other states. Now roads, we are spending quite a lot of money, but stress should be made where which roads and which work we require most, which will generate some revenue to the state as far as so we have to concentrate and see where we are going to spend the budget and where we are going to spend the estimate, where we are going to spend the money and how we are going to spend this money. If you want to have a good state, in fact, talking about comparison to other states, even taxes on vehicles which we projected, we have estimated and projected where we could earn money, revenues in property taxes or property, wherever there is, depending that we are going to have a lot of sale, we had thought so much revenue, but it has not come. It is not what is actuals. Speaker, sir, but all this finally sums up what we project at the end of the year, or rather when we check of how much we have spent. Out of the total projected budgets, how much we have spent and how much we had projected, how much we actually spent. Speaker, sir, talking about, in fact, comparing our state with other states. We have a first index, which is the poverty index. We are quite low as far as other states. I think as far as the poverty levels, you can talk of Dadra Nagari, we can talk of Chhattisgarh, we can talk of other states. We are in a much better position. In spite of this, we require, since we have a high literacy rate and we have a high spending rate, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, another 5 minutes. Talking about all this, all our estimates or rather where we stand as far as our state is concerned, we still require some more money to be spent. We require a lot of DSS to be given. There are people, our spending capacity or rather what we spend or rather what is the cost of living is higher as far as other states are concerned. So we have to give more money, we require to spend more money on schemes like DSS, schemes like cancer treatments, where the common man is involved. So we need to spend more money and improve the poverty rates of the states. Because sir, in fact, when we talk of all this, when we talk of expenditures, electricity department for power, we require a lot of infrastructure. The existing infrastructure as far as power is concerned is in a very, very precarious situation. We have had situations where there is one small unit or rather one small insulator which breaks and the whole electricity supply is disrupted. Now this is somewhere on the hill. It takes 2 hours to locate it and it takes half an hour to fix it. How to spend money and get all these things, all these insulators where new technology has come. We have to see that new technology has been enforced so that all these issues are solved. Now to do this, we look at underground cablings, we look at so many things. That doesn't solve the problem. Underground cabling itself doesn't solve the problem because we do high tension and we got LT line, we got the HT lines. Because sir, water supply, there are so many issues. The pipes are corroded. We require to spend, we have to see that we spend more money as far as electricity is concerned. As far as the health is concerned, only health are issue geta. As far as the health is concerned, the health, we have to stress, although there is an increase of almost 16% of the budget, estimated budget, there is an increase for this budget to about 16%. Lot of money is required in spite of that. People look up, the patients that come in all the hospitals, right from your Kankan hospital to GMC, has increased to such a level that people are looking up and now when we always talk of more rights than duties. We talk of more power to the people, we talk of more facilities to the people. I remember some years when we used to have problems. There were no hearse vans, there were no ambulances, there were no 108. We used to have patients where and somebody died. We used to, in the village there was one pickup and that one pickup is to help us take the bodies. The other pickups did not take it because they don't want a dead body to be taken on their vehicle. There were no hearse vans. I remember from there to today, we had to wait for that one pickup to take the body. Now we have people who just they sit down and take one video. Where is 108? Where is hearse van? Why it has not come? To avoid these sort of situations, we have to have more facilities which will be practicable in the sense that working smart will help and all these issues, all these systems to put in place, we'll have to tackle one by one. For example, Speaker sir, I wanted to speak on sports, I wanted to speak on other things. At least everybody criticizes the MLAs. Out of the 40 MLAs, we are always how we are looked upon. I would like to make a mention. You are not looked about from how clean you are. You are looked around from how dirty you are, or rather how corrupt you are, or how bad you are. In fact, Speaker sir, when it comes to this level, even we require, as an MLA, we require more staff. We require some systems to be placed as far as MLAs are concerned to see that, the corruption level, or rather, we have more facilities and we are forced to, in fact, give better services to our people. Speaker sir, with this, I think I will have more time as far as the demands are concerned, and I hope and we look forward that this budget, when there is then after COVID, post-COVID, when everybody thought that the state would be in such a state where we would have no money even for salaries of the staff. We will have no money for expenditure, the recurring expenditure. We will not having money for expenditures which are by right, which are required to sustain the state. I think it's a fairly good budget. And
Yes.
Speaker Sir, we look forward to have a better budget. We look forward to have our better systems in place. As far as I would look forward to having better facilities in my constituency, or rather as a state of a whole also, Speaker.